So what does it actually cost to live here in Thailand as an expat in 2026? In this video we're going to break down all the major key points you're going to spend your money on here as an expat, like health insurance, visas, rent, food, transport and everything else in between. So I'm Vic, I'm 29, I've lived here now for 9 years in Thailand. I'm going to go through and break down what I spend in a month here in Thailand, that's including my gym, my rent and everything else in between. People often say that Thailand is extremely cheap. Now, yes, it can be extremely cheap if you just eat local food, live in a hovel and don't really do much with your day other than go to the beach. Now, yes, that does sound great and everything, but it's not very sustainable as an actual expat. So let's go through and let's work out what we actually spend here a month in Thailand. This is my real monthly cost. This isn't made up nonsense like most TikTokers. This is what it actually costs to live here as an expat in Thailand. Nothing backpacky, nothing luxurious, just as a normal expat here in Thailand in a normal house. Quick disclaimer, obviously everyone spends different money here in Thailand. I spend this much amount because this is what I know gives me a nice comfortable life. Other people will spend a lot more, some people spend a little bit less. I don't live particularly high. To live much lower than me, you're really not doing very much with your time here. So, the first thing we're going to get into today is rent. Now, this can vary an awful lot depending on where you live in the country. Obviously, if you live in Bangkok, you're going to spend a little bit more for your condo price. If you live in a major city, obviously a bit more. If you live on the islands, it's going to cost you an absolute fortune for your rent there as a house or even a condo. And if you live in rural Thailand, obviously it's not going to cost very much at all. So there's a lot of things people don't talk about when they talk about rent here in Thailand. So when you move into a new house or a new condo or something like that, there is always a 2-month deposit up front. People don't talk about that. They just say, oh, they moved into this condo for £200. No, they didn't move into that. It was £600 probably, realistically. And the next thing is also you end up having to change a lot of the things you move into. If you get a cheaper condo, you will end up having to change things. The bed will be like concrete. A lot of the kitchenware and cookingware won't be very good and it will break instantly, which you'll then lose your deposit for as well. Any single problem with that condo or house that you've rented, you will lose your deposit here in Thailand. They are very strict on that sort of thing and you will not get to keep your deposit. So what do people actually spend? Most people that I know out here spend between 10 and 40,000 baht a month. So that's anywhere between £250 to £1,000 a month, roughly. So my rent is 18,000 baht, it's £450 roughly, and I have a nice 3-bedroom house with a nice little overhang, little front garden, nice back garden with a little summer house, and a nice 3-bedroom house with a Western style kitchen. Now you can go a little bit cheaper than that when it comes to houses. You will get a slightly smaller space, you won't have as much room outside, it'll be a much more smaller house. I've got quite a big house with quite decent sized rooms, and it means we have a nice quality of life here when we're living at home, because I spend a lot of time at home working and that sort of thing, so it's nice to have a decent place to actually stay. Now, you can get a condo for around 10 to 20,000 baht a month here in any city or any major part of the country, obviously. Now, the 10,000 baht condos will be slightly bigger usually than the more expensive condos, but your amenities, your pool, your gym, all that sort of thing won't be as good. I quite often find that the older condos here in Thailand are often much better because you have got more space. A lot of these newer condos are very cramped in. They fit as many condos as they can into the building, which I understand. Obviously, they try to make as much money as possible. The amenities will be a lot better. You have a sauna, you have a gym, you have a steam room, you'll have everything you could possibly want. Nice infinity pools, that sort of thing, but your rooms will be a lot smaller and you will pay anywhere between 15 to 25,000 baht for these newer, nicer condos, which isn't too bad anyway. So, as I said, I spend 20,000 baht a month here on my rent. So that's my breakdown for rent prices. Anywhere between 10 and 30,000 is roughly what you want to be spending here in Thailand. 30,000 will get you a smaller pool villa, whereas 10,000 will get you a condo and you'll get a nice house in between that as well. So the next section is going to be bills. So this one can be quite cheap, to be honest. So electric, I spend anywhere between 2 and 3,000 baht a month on my electric, which is anywhere between 50 to 70 pounds, 50 to 75 pounds roughly on my electric every single month. Now I don't live with the aircon on all the time, but if I'm at home, I'm usually going to have the aircon on. Not all the time. I sometimes put a fan on if it's not too hot outside. But realistically, if you're sitting inside your house here in Thailand, as you can see behind me, it's a nice hot summer's day. If you're not sitting with the aircon on, you're going to be sitting there sweating. I see people say all the time, oh, they spend 1,000 baht a month on their electric. You sit in a hot, sweaty room with a fan. Now, that's not living, that's surviving. That's completely different. So realistically, you're going to spend between 2,000 and 3,000 baht a month on your electric. And if you are in a condo, you'll quite often spend more, because I get it government rate because I'm in a house, whereas condos often change the rate and make a little bit of money on there, so they'll charge you even more. Next is water. Now, water is extremely cheap here in Thailand. I spend about 200 baht a month on my water, which is about £5, and that it covers me for all my showers, all my washing, and all the rest of it. Water is really cheap here, but obviously you can't drink the water, so that's where it loops back, and you end up having to spend a fortune on bottled water. So water is pretty cheap, and I spend about 200 baht a month on that. Next is Wi-Fi. So I spend 900 baht a month on my Wi-Fi. That's 1,000 megabytes a second, and I've got no problems here with my Wi-Fi. It's very, very fast speed. I play PlayStation, I stream, I do whatever I want, and it all works absolutely fine. I spend 900 baht a month on that. Next is mobile and phone data. So I spend 350 baht a month on my phone, which again is quite cheap. So that's what, £8 or so for my phone. That gives me enough data to last me all month and do what I want. And obviously I can call people, text people, and do whatever. Usually everything's done here on Wi-Fi, like WhatsApp and that sort of thing, rather than phone calls and that sort of thing, because most people are just relying on data and that sort of thing. And of course, there's always surprise bills when you don't expect them for little things. I've got a dog, so there's always a little bit of things going into the dog and that sort of thing. But your bills are pretty good here, roughly. I mean, I spend anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 baht a month on bills, which isn't that bad, to be honest. I don't mind that whatsoever. So the next thing is transport. Now, this one can vary an awful lot depending on who you are and what you like to do as a person. Now, as you can see, I've got a little Super Cub scooter there, which I purchased last year. And it's £1,100, brand new, out of the showroom for this Honda Super Cub scooter. Now, everyone who knows here Thailand, they know what the Super Cubs and the Waves are like. They are bulletproof, hence why I bought one. I've been having an older scooter and having loads of problems with it and that sort of thing. I thought, no, enough of this. What is the point in having an older scooter? It just breaks all the time. I have so many problems with it, and it ends up costing as much as a rental does. So I chopped it in, sold it, and got myself a Cub last year, and it works perfectly. And that cost me £1,100 to buy, and I spend anywhere between 200 to 500 baht a month on fuel to run the scooter, which is really cheap anyway. So it's up to sort of £15 a month to rent to fuel my scooter. Next is my truck. So I have got a truck here in Thailand. Now that is what costs a little bit more money to fuel. I will probably do anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 baht a week with my truck on fuel. And that will be if I go drive to training, or I'm going out for dinner, or I'm going to the city to see friends, or I'm doing something. I will often drive of an evening time and that sort of thing. But often for training, I'll drive my scooter. But I'll spend roughly about 1,000 baht a week just on fuel for the truck. So obviously having a car or having a vehicle like that will cost a lot more. Now, if you're renting a car or renting a truck, it will cost you anywhere between 10 and 20,000 baht a month. Now, personally, I think that's not a bad price for renting a car here. It's not that bad. It's anywhere between 250 to 500 pounds a month to rent your vehicle here. Isn't that bad? But as I said, fuel does add up fast. Now, if you are driving the truck or driving your car all the time, you will start noticing that you spend a lot more money on fuel than you do when you're riding a scooter. Hence why when it comes to training and quite often going places, if I'm just shooting out to the shop and that sort of thing, I'll always take my scooter. But obviously, I do a lot of motocross, I do a lot of enduro riding here and that sort of thing. So a truck for me is obviously a necessity, because obviously I'm out all the time taking my bike places. And I do notice that when I do drive places, I'm often going to Rayong or Chonburi or different places to go ride my bike. It does cost a little bit in fuel to take the truck there, but that comes part of the package. Now, the next thing is insurance and registration and tax. Every year here in Thailand, you have to obviously pay for insurance and registration and tax and all the rest of it. Now, again, that obviously all adds up. I mean, for the scooter, it's not too bad. For the truck, it's not too bad. I spend probably anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 baht a year on all of my tax. I've got an off-road bike, but it's also road legal. I've got the scooter, we've got a bike, and I've got the truck. So between all of that, it costs me anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 baht a year to make sure they've all got taxed and roadworthy and all the rest of it, which isn't too bad either, to be honest. If you're one of those people who doesn't want to rent a car and can't ride a bike, or doesn't want a bike or something like that, then to be honest, it's going to cost you quite a lot of money in the long term. Short term, it's not too bad. If you're here on holiday, you're just jumping around on grabs, going to the beach, going to a restaurant, doing things like that. It's going to cost you between like 30 to 100 baht for quick little trips on the back of a scooter. But if you're here long term and you're looking to often go into the city, or if you live in Bangkok and you're going for restaurants, going for this, you'll probably do anywhere between 50 to 200 baht a day just on grabs. Now that starts to add up quite quickly. You'll do anywhere between, say, £2.50 to sort of £5, £6 a day on your grab transport, which obviously sounds like not a lot, but then you do that obviously the whole month, you're talking £150 onwards, which then changes the whole aspect of what you're doing. You might as well have just rented a car or rented a scooter or something like that. Yes, it's still a bit cheaper, but then you have the freedom to do what you want as well. That's the big difference. So roughly here in Thailand, when it comes to transport, it's sort of down to you a little bit for that one. But personally, I would always say have a scooter, if you can ride one, obviously, so you can get around, get what you need to do, and you have the freedom to do whatever you want. If you can't ride a scooter, I would always say rent a car. The traffic here is really good. Some places can get a bit crazy, but even yesterday I was in Bangkok for a midnight marathon, and the traffic isn't bad. It was 9:30 in the morning, and I was driving through the centre of Bangkok with barely a bit of traffic in there. Yes, the roads are a little bit confusing and whatnot, but other than that, it's a really good place to drive, and it's really easy. And Bangkok is the hardest place to drive in Thailand. It's not a particularly hard place to drive. They drive on the same road as us in the UK. If you're in the States, then obviously, yes, it's a bit different. But to be honest, driving here in Thailand is not a hard thing to do. People make it out like it's harder than it is. So rent a car, why not? So the next thing we're going to break down is healthcare here in Thailand. Now, the healthcare systems and the private hospitals here in Thailand are absolutely amazing, I will say. I've been to hospital a few times over my years here, and I've loved the experience every time. It's not like going to the hospital in the UK. It's not like the NHS, I will say. But that does come at a fee. Now, if you don't have insurance, it will cost you a lot of money to go to the hospital here, unless you go local, which is not a good idea. Now, I spend 35,000 baht a year on my insurance. That covers me up to, I think it's £2 million for serious things and whatnot. It will get me home. It will cover me for wherever I live. If I have an accident, I'll have I'll be able to get surgery, that type of thing. If I've got any problems, I can go straight to the hospital and I'm covered. Now, I do that through Krungsi. I have a a credit card, basically, that is my insurance card. I go to hospital, I show them my insurance card, or I show them the app, I walk straight through and I get all the coverage I could possibly need. And that's about £800 a month. Now, that doesn't cover me for dental, it doesn't cover me for certain things like reoccurring illnesses or reoccurring injuries. Obviously, because of my riding over the years, I've had many accidents, I've broken every bone in my body, basically. It doesn't cover me for things like that. And when you're signing up for your insurance, you have to have a health check on the rest of it, and you go through the accidents you've had or previous conditions you've ever had. Now, you're not covered for those. Obviously, most insurance companies don't do that sort of thing. But to be honest, for £800 a month, £800 a year, I am covered completely for anything that I want to do here. And I'm completely safe if something goes wrong. So the next thing we're going to get onto now is dental. So it's pretty cheap here in Thailand. I go for a checkup and a teeth clean every 6 months or so. And that usually costs me between 4,000 and 6,000 baht, unless it's got to have some sort of extras and that sort of thing, which, to be honest, compared to the UK is a lot cheaper. The last time I was in the UK getting my teeth done, I think it cost me £400 or something like that. I didn't even get anything really done. So it's very expensive in the UK, whereas here it's usually £100, £150 for a good checkup, teeth clean, and anything else. But that isn't included in my insurance, and that's something you have got to put into consideration, because obviously, again, it's something that will come up and you have to do every 6 months or so, or even every year if you want to do it like that instead. Now, I meet a lot of people here that do gamble their lives and they don't have insurance and that sort of thing. Now, yes, you can do that, but as I just said, when something goes wrong, which inevitably, if you live here long term, something will go wrong. You will have something wrong with you. You will have a little illness or whatever happens. Now, you are gambling a little bit, because if you do get a problem and you do go to hospital and you have to stay overnight or something like that, it really will cost you an absolute fortune. So to be honest, 35,000 baht a year covers you for overnight stays, all that sort of thing. So to be honest, just pay the money and don't gamble your life, because it could end up costing you an absolute fortune. So the next thing we're going to break down now is visas. So I meet a lot of people here recently who live here long term apparently, but are on tourist visas. Now, 9 years ago when I first started travelling Thailand, tourist visas were fine. You could probably get away with 7-8 months of the year living on tourist visas. But back then you only got 30 days plus one extension, whereas now you get 60 days plus an extension, which is slightly different. They give you a little bit more free time here, but they're a lot stricter now, especially with the rules that have just changed this year. You are only doing one visa run realistically, or you're going to get yourself banned from the country for 5 years, and that is now something you don't want to do. So you have got to think about what visa you're going to go on to, because you can't stay here long term on a tourist visa. Now, you can do the DTV visa, which is around 10,000 baht, but you'll also spend another 20 or 30,000 baht on agency fees for them to sort it out. Because quite often I see in these groups, people apply for it themselves and get rejected because it's a visa that they don't really want too many people on, so you end up having to pay a visa to guarantee your entry. and make sure you actually get the visa, which is a bit annoying, I know, but agency fees is something you need to keep in mind for Thailand. Agencies are the people that run this country. They keep everyone in correct visa, they keep everything going, and if you don't have an agent, it can often be very, very, very difficult for your visa entry and for visa things and whatnot. So again, if you're going to go down the DTV route, which is what a lot of people are doing nowadays, it's around 10,000 baht for the visa if you do it yourself, anywhere between 30 and 40,000 baht if you get an agent to do it for you. And obviously then you've got to start thinking about things like visa runs, because you only get a 180-day stamp with that, and then you have to leave and come back. Now you can visa run, but that will cost you money. You have got to fly to a foreign country and stay there for a couple of days and come back, and that's going to cost you £200 or £300. That's going to be twice a year, or every 180 days. So we'll call it, once a year, but then you finish it off again with the end of the year. Now you've also got to do a 90-day report. So every 90 days here in Thailand, as a foreigner, you have to report to the immigration, let them know your address, that type of thing. And if you've changed address, anytime you change address here in Thailand, you have to go tell the immigration, that sort of thing. Again, you'll often pay an agent to do that for you, because the immigration officers here can often be an absolute nightmare, and they take hours and hours and hours and nonsense to get through. Now it will cost you, from an agent, 400 to 500 baht, something like that. I think I paid 2, but I've got a friend in the immigration who does it for me. I just send them pictures of my stuff and they do it for me. I think it's 200 baht, but often these agents will charge you between 400 and 500 baht for doing that. But every single 90 days you have to do a report, and if you don't, it's not like an overstay, but you get in trouble for doing it. You do it too many times, they'll kick you out. So there's a lot of extra hidden fees when it comes to visas and whatnot. Visa runs, all your 90-day reports and things like that. There's one thing to keep in mind with your visas and when you're applying for things and whatnot, is to keep that in mind. Now the next visa we're going to talk about is education visa. So I have done 2 education visas here over my time, one before Corona and then one since Corona. Now, the education visa is quite a good visa. So it gives you 1 year here in Thailand, and you can learn Thai or learn an activity or cooking or something like that, whatever you want to do. I did Thai language courses so I can learn to speak Thai. They were really good classes, to be honest. I picked a really good school and made sure I did a good certified school and all the rest of it, and it was well worth doing. The only downside to that visa is it's very difficult to leave the country. So if you want to go away in that 1 year, you have to apply for it, because if you're during school, you should be in school. So when it comes to leaving and going on holiday and that type of thing, if you want to go home or you want to go away or whatever you want to do, you have to apply to leave the country, and then obviously you have to get a stamp in and a stamp out to leave the country, and that will cost you, I think, 3,000 to 5,000 baht. I can't quite remember that one. But you have to apply for it, otherwise you're stuck here in the country, and that's that. So the education visa is quite good if you're learning to live, if you want to learn Thai as well, which obviously is a really good thing to do. If you're going to live here long term, you should definitely learn to speak at least a little bit of Thai to be able to get by, order your food, all your drinks, and speak at least basic Thai to a Thai person, which they also really like as well when you do speak a bit of Thai. So the education visa is a good route to go down. Or obviously the retirement visa is pretty cheap. You've got to make either 65,000 baht a month, or you can have 800,000 baht in a Thai bank account, or a bank account in general, I think it is now, and then you can get your retirement visa, which is also a really good visa to go on. But obviously you have to be over 50 years old for that one, and that sadly isn't me. So for me, I'm on the DTV visa, and for me that gives me 5 years here now. I'm over a year into that visa now, so I've got another 3.5 years left on that visa, and then we'll change over to something afterwards. Now, last one is work permits. So work permits are a great visa, but your employer will sort all that out for you if you get a job here in Thailand. But always remember, it's really hard to get a job here in Thailand as a foreigner, because obviously there's only a few jobs you can actually do, and everybody wants it. So forget about that one, because it's a really hard one to do. And if you do move out here with the work, they'll sort out all your visa for you, so you haven't got to worry about that one. Right, so next category is food. Now this one can be very, very controversial when it comes to food. So it can be very cheap or it can be very expensive. It all comes down to you a little bit for this one. So Thai food and street food is obviously very cheap, but what I will say is it's covered in oil. Now I have met many people over my years here who just ate Thai food for 6 months and then wind themselves up in hospital, often without health insurance as well. Back to that last point. Now Thai food here hasn't got many vegetables in it. It's covered in oil and they use very cheap ingredients, which is absolutely fine because Thai food is absolutely amazing. But one thing to remember is there's not a lot of vegetables, you get no fruits, and you will end up getting ill because as a Westerner, you need to eat certain things. Our bodies are completely different to Thais. We haven't grown up on Thai food and they use very different oils, hence a lot of the stomach problems that happen out here. So If you're going to cook Thai, cooking Thai is really cheap. I cook all my own food basically. I go out for dinner a couple of nights a week maybe, but that's about it. I cook nearly all my own food. So my grocery shopping is anywhere between maybe 1,000 to 3,000 baht a week, depends on what I'm making, what I'm doing. I'm often cooking foreigner food. I cook lasagna, I cook shepherd's pie quite a lot. I love shepherd's pie, so I'm often cooking shepherd's pie and things. I then also cook my own pad krapao and cook a lot of Thai food and that sort of thing. But to be honest, cooking here is pretty cheap. So a kilogram of chicken breast, I think is around 80 baht. So it's around less than £2 for a kilogram of chicken breast. Rice is obviously pretty cheap. I buy a lot of chips. Potatoes are pretty cheap here. I make my own chips sometimes, but I quite often buy frozen chips because I quite like frozen chips. Now, I bought a little electric oven and it cost me around 3,000 baht for my electric oven. And I can throw everything in there. Again, I like chicken wings a lot, so I'm always cooking chicken wings, that sort of thing. Chicken and rice with some chicken wings or whatever, or some pork on rice or something like that. Some pork and chips, whatever. So I'm often cooking myself every night of the week. And I cook for around 1,000 to 3,000 baht a week when it comes to that sort of thing. But if you are eating out and you are eating Western, it will cost you anywhere between 200 to 500 baht per meal, which again can add up very quickly, and you can end up spending 1,000 baht a day just on food, which is, to be honest, not too bad. But in the UK, would you spend £25 a day on food if you live there? The realistic answer is probably no, unless you're broke. So you have got to think about that, and you have got to work out what you can eat, what you like eating, and where you can eat at. Obviously, you can live on Western food, and obviously you can live on Grab, which is the Uber Eats of here, but it will start costing you a fortune. And back to that point, if you are living here in Thailand, you can't live like a tourist. That's tourist things. Now, I spend around 3,000 USD a month on everything that I spend, and I cook most of my own food. Now, this is the thing. So people think, oh, that's crazy. That's loads of money for here for Thailand. Well, I cook all my own food. Now, if I was to eat out every single day, imagine how much that would actually be now. That would be tripled. Now, coffee addiction. Now, I personally don't drink coffee. I drink tea. Now, tea bags here are quite expensive. It will cost me around £5 for a pack of 40 tea bags or something like that. But I don't mind that because I like a cup of tea. I drink 2 or 3 cups a day probably. I love tea. Personally, I'm not a coffee drinker, but coffee is where I see people spend an awful lot of money. You'll do anywhere between 60 to 200 baht on a cup of coffee here in Thailand. Now, 200 baht is £5. That's how much it is for a coffee back home. You go to Starbucks here, it's 250 baht, that sort of thing. So you will spend the same money you do on coffee here in Thailand as you do back home. I see coffee addicts over here drinking coffee non-stop, and to be honest, it costs more than their food to drink the coffee. So overall, food here in Thailand is obviously quite cheap unless you're eating out every day and eating at fancy restaurants and all the rest of it. Now, it's awesome where I live here. We can get roast dinners, we can get fry-ups, we can go get goulash, we can go get anything we could possibly want, which is an awesome touch, and I absolutely love it because I eat an awful lot of Thai food and an awful lot of food out, but I do like to cook. The main thing I do is cook every night. I eat out maybe twice a week, and that's about it. But you do need to watch out for how much you actually spend on food. So the next category now is activities, the fun bit. So this is what people who are living here on a budget don't get to do. If you're trying to live here on $1,000 to $1,500 a month, you're not going to get to do activities, sadly. That's not in your budget. By the time you paid rent, eating your food, had some transport and got yourself around, you're not going to have time for activities unless you just go to a normal gym. Now, a normal gym here will cost you between 1,000 to 3,000 baht a month for just a normal basic gym. Gyms here can be quite expensive, to be honest. Now, Muay Thai is what I do. I pay anywhere between 4,000 to 7,000 baht a month for my Muay Thai. It depends where I am and what I'm doing. I quite often at the moment change gyms, so I go to a new gym every single month, and that usually costs me 4,000 and 7,000 baht a month for the gym. Now, weekend trips and weekends away aren't free. Now, a lot of people who live here in Thailand, they'll live in the city, live in Bangkok or live in major cities and whatnot, and on a weekend, they'll catch a bus or catch a flight down to the islands or something like that. Now, you will do anywhere between £50 to £100 per night for a hotel down the island. Let's go stay in a hostel, which hostels aren't cheap anymore either, I will say. When I first started living out here, 100 baht hostel rooms were a thing. Now it's 500 baht hostel rooms, and you're living in a dorm room for £15 a night. That's something that I will not be doing personally. But you'll do anywhere between £50 to £100 a night on a half-decent little hotel down the islands in south of Thailand, which isn't too bad, plus probably a £60 return flight from Bangkok as well. So you'll do probably £300 or £400 on a weekend trip. Now, people like to do this at least once a month or so to get out of the city and out of the dirty air and get some nice clean air and have a nice weekend at the beach. People do that very often, I will say. Now, the next thing is bike riding. Personally, I do a lot of motocross, a lot of enduro, and a lot of activities that are based around extreme sports and that sort of thing, which can often cost quite a lot of money here. Now, for me, enduro riding is very cheap. The bike itself cost me around 4,000 USD, which obviously is quite a lot of money. But when I go and ride, it doesn't actually cost me any money. I fill the tank up, which is around 150 to 200 baht, depends if I've got anything left over from the ride before. That gives me a full tank, and I can be out riding all day on that. The maintenance and upkeep on my bike is actually very cheap because I chose to buy a Honda 300L, which is a bike that's produced here and a bike that all Thais have. Parts for it are extremely cheap, but if you go outside the box and buy a KTM or a Yamaha or something like that, something that's an import, anyone that lives here knows about the import tax here. And for instance, if I was to break a brake caliper and it snapped off, it would cost me around 1,500 baht to fix. Now, if I had a KTM, it's going to cost you around 14,000 baht to fix. That's the big difference. It will cost you a lot more money to fix the bikes and the upkeep and the maintenance and the rest of it, which is one of the reasons why I chose to go on the Honda 300L route, because no, it's not the best bike there is, but it's the safest bike for here in Thailand. It doesn't cost me a lot to fix when things go wrong, because that's one thing to remember with bikes and doing off-roading, is things will always go wrong. So that cost me around 200 baht to go ride every day. On the way home, I stop in at Easy Rider, which is a cafe around the corner from where I live, and they do free bike wash with food and that sort of thing, but I'm friends with the owner anyway, so quite often I'll just stop in there, clean my bike, head home afterwards, probably get some food in there because the food in there is really nice as well, but as I said, I don't usually eat out that much, so to be honest, I'll just stop in, clean my bike, head home and do that. But otherwise, I could buy a jet washer, which would be 6,000 or 10,000 baht for a decent jet washer, and that will last me forever. But to be honest, I quite like doing it out. All the dirt, all the grime stays away from the house. I don't bring all the dirt in, which is much better that way. Now, entry fees, day passes, that type of thing. Now, if you like doing nature walks, that type of thing, or like going to waterfalls, now, as everyone knows who's been to Thailand before, it will cost a Thai person 20 baht and you 200 baht. Now, if you want to go to waterfalls, go to nature parks, go to nature reserves, that type of thing, it will cost you a lot of money to go to that sort of thing. You'll do 200 baht a day, 200 baht for entry, you'll buy some food in there, buy a smoothie, something like that, and you'll do 500 baht on an activity, plus you've got to get there as well. Now, back to that point, if you haven't got a bike, you haven't got a car, you then got to get a grab there or some sort of taxi there, which will then be a few hundred baht, that type of thing. And you end up doing 500 baht, end up doing 1,000 baht for the day out by the time you've got your entry, got some food and that type of thing, and got your taxi there and back. So activities can cost you quite a lot of money here. And back to that point, the people that are living here on $1,000 to $2,000 a month, they don't get to do activities and things because all their money's tied up in actually living here, and they don't actually get much of a quality of life. Which is why you need to not listen to people who are saying they live here on $1,000 a month, because they don't actually do anything while they're here. They go to the beach and make videos and try and make it on TikTok for money. Last but not least is wakeboarding and fun activities. So I will often go wakeboarding as something to go and do because I really enjoy that. That's 1,000 baht a day. I go to the skate park quite a lot because there's a lot of pump tracks and skate parks here. That's usually quite cheap, 50 to 100 baht for entry, that type of thing. I've got a skateboard and a longboard and that type of thing, so I can just go down there and just have a little play. So activities here can be quite cheap, but you will spend 1,000 baht a day for most activities, or at least 500 baht a day for most activities, to be honest, for whatever you're going to go and do. But you still got to buy the skateboard, you still got to buy things first in order for that to be 500 baht for your activity and whatnot. That's one thing to keep in mind, is activities. It doesn't cost too much for activities here if you own the product to do things with. Otherwise, you will spend a fortune here. But a fun thing to really go and do is take a scooter out, to be honest. That's one thing I do enjoy doing, is going exploring on a scooter. So fill up the tank, go for a ride. It costs me 100 baht to fill the tank up on the scooter, and we head out for a nice long ride into the mountains, or down to a different beach, or to a waterfall, or something like that. It's something that I do really enjoy doing, and a lot of people do as well. But that's obviously a nice cheap activity, but back to that point, it still costs entry, still costs fuel, still costs lunch. One thing to keep in mind. Now, the last thing that I'm going to go through is nightlife. Now, this is the one that people ruin Thailand on. So this is where people get lost in the sauce. Thailand is great fun. You can do whatever you want here. You can have an amazing night out. You can drink every night of the week. There's nightclubs and parties and amazing things to go and do every single day of the week, which is great. But they cost a fortune. Now, I see people spending £5,000-10,000 a month when they come here on holiday, and 80% of what they spend their money on is drinking. You will spend over 1,000 baht every time you go out in an evening. Yes, the beers might be quite cheap. You might be able to spend 100 baht or 150 baht on a beer and a drink and that type of thing. But you will spend a lot of money on nights out, and they often spiral out of control, then with taxis and that sort of thing. I see your average person and spending anywhere between 1,000 to 5,000 baht every single time they go out for an evening. Personally, I don't drink, So for me, that's quite a cheap option, and I don't really spend an awful lot of money on that sort of thing. Maybe once a year I'll go out, so I don't mind spending 5,000 baht when I go on a night out, because I go out once a year, maybe twice a year, the absolute push. But there's one thing to remember, it's the grab home. It's the one drink will never be one drink, like the same it is in the UK when you're there. They always spiral out of control. Everyone's out having fun. You have the FOMO, a fear of missing out. Next thing you know, you're in the nightclubs till 4 in the morning buying bottles and that sort of thing, and you will find you spend a lot more money here than you do back home on a night out. People get lost in the sauce in Thailand, and it's absolutely fine if you're a tourist and you're here for 2 weeks or you're here for a month. Go out and go drink every night, go have fun, and who gives a shit? But when you live here as an expat and you live here long term, going out drinking every single night is not a sustainable way of living. Again, it's something I see people do quite a lot. They go out every single night drinking and they eat local food, and now your stomach cannot take that. It's not used to drinking every single day back home, and it's not used to the amount of oil and lack of vegetables that you get in all the food. And now them two mixed together, you're only going to last 6 months, and your body will shut down and you'll find yourself in hospital. And the people that are usually budgeting and living on no money don't usually have health insurance because they think they're going to be okay, which is fine if you then eat clean, but they don't eat clean and they drink a lot. So it's something to keep in mind, because it will spiral out of control and you'll end up getting lost in the sauce here in Thailand, like I see so many people do. So it won't stay all negative about the nightlife here in Thailand. Bangkok, for instance, awesome night out if you don't mind spending some money. Now, you will spend between 3,000 and 10,000 baht for a decent night out, going to the high rises or the fancy clubs. You've got the Havana, which is a nice Cuban restaurant, a Cuban nightclub and or bar type thing. There's a lot of hidden bars and cool little cocktail bars and that type of thing, but they are not cheap. They are more expensive than you'll spend at a cocktail bar in the UK. There's another thing to watch out for. It will be between 500 baht to 1,000 baht per drink in these places, but they are really exclusive, really fun. You meet some amazing people in these places, and I won't talk shit on that because they are really good, but you will spend a lot of money on these places. Now, the hidden bars and the cocktail bars and all the rest of it in Bangkok do have a lot of cool people in them, but they are higher end expats or rich Thais most of the time, which is absolutely fine. But for someone who's trying to live here on a budget, if you're trying to live here on under 3,000 USD a month, you're not spending your nights in these nightclubs or these bars, I'm afraid. You are spending it in places like Khao San Road, where you can get cheap buckets and cheap beers and that type of thing, because that's all you can afford, especially if you're down for $2,000 or $1,000 mark. You will not be spending much, and otherwise you go to the shop and you buy your beers from there. Personally, as I say, I don't drink. Sometimes I'll go to a cocktail bar in Bangkok or a high rise for dinner and a few drinks, but that's as far as it goes. And as I said, you will do 5,000 to 10,000 baht on those types of things, but it's worth doing every now and then if you don't do it all the time. So, in conclusion, we're going to go through a couple of things now and tell you exactly what it all roughly costs. Now, Thailand can be very cheap, but not automatically cheap like everyone says on TikTok. It's not that cheap. And now, realistically, to live any sort of quality of life, any video that I see of actual real expats living here, they do spend around 90 to 100,000 baht a month, which is just over 3,000 USD or around 3,000 USD. That will give you a decent enough quality of life here. That will give you a roughly 20,000 baht place to stay. You'll have a vehicle. You'll be able to go do what you want. You'll go do activities. You'll go have fun. You'll go to Muay Thai. You'll have a nice gym. You'll go for dinner with friends, you'll go to cocktail places, you'll do some things and whatnot. Now, 3,000 USD is quite a lot, obviously, and it is quite a lot for here in Thailand. Well, let me phrase that, it used to be a lot for here in Thailand, but now 3,000 USD seems to be about the average that I see most expats spend here a month in Thailand. Anything less than that, and as I said, they're living on Thai food, sitting on the beach and not really doing an awful lot with their day. And the difference between that is you're not living, you're surviving. So to live some sort of comfortable life here in Thailand, you will spend around 3,000 USD a month, which is around 90 to 100,000 baht a month. Now, if I was to spend 3,000 USD a month in the UK, obviously my quality of life would not even be close to what it would be here. But 3,000 USD is still quite a lot of money for someone to make here in Thailand. A lot of what I see here people do, they come out with a budget of £10,000 and they're going to be here for a year or something like that. Now that disappears quite quickly when you're spending $3,000 a month. And to be honest, those people that are on budgets usually are people in the bars and that sort of thing, because they're not working. Now when you're working, same as in the UK, you're not spending money because you're busy working and that type of thing. But if you haven't got a job and you're just here budgeting and having fun, to be honest, it's a lot harder to not spend money then. You'll end up in the bars, you'll end up doing activities all day, which is absolutely fine, but you will spend a lot more money then. Now, if I was starting out again here in Thailand, when I first moved here, I would have budgeted a lot more than I did, because obviously I spent a lot more money when I was here in Thailand, and obviously it was a lot cheaper back then as well. I used to drink a lot, I used to smoke a lot, I used to have a lot of fun. I was out every night, I was doing activities, boat parties, boat trips, going out on different tours and different excursions, going to the elephants, all that type of thing, which is all great when you're a tourist. And obviously when I first come out here, I was still a tourist. I hadn't started working, I hadn't started living here properly yet. But as soon as I started living here properly, I had to slowly learn to unwind my different lifestyle here. People live here as an expat, like a tourist, and now that you can't afford to do, because as I said, you will spend more than $3,000 a month. Now, that's quite a lot of money for most people. Even in the UK, that's a good paying job in the UK. You need to be very careful what you actually spend here, because you will spend more than you would do in the UK just living a basic normal life, just because you go out and drink or do activities as well. So I'm going to finish it up there and just say you need to be more realistic about what you actually watch and what you actually think about here in Thailand. Because if you think you're going to survive here on $1,000 a month and live a decent quality of life, you are very much mistaken. But you can also live very, very nice on 3,000 USD. Your average expat will spend around 3,000 USD a month. But anyway, guys, I hope that video was really helpful and really inclusive, and show you what I actually spend on a monthly basis here in Thailand, or what an expat actually spends a month here on a month, not just some TikToker who's been here for 3 months and says what they can spend a month here. No. This is what an average expat actually spends a month here, who has a truck, has a motorbike, lives in a half-decent house, and goes out and does things and has activities and does stuff and whatnot. This is roughly what it will spend, and I hope you guys found that video informative and decent. Stay tuned for the next one. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you very much.